Ow. Just remember that I am beautiful, I am important, I am worthy of these gifts. Ow, I have something in my eye. 3 hours will pass and I'm still there playing Moonstone Island, and it's now like 2 in the morning. Oh, it's so weird to be back. Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're new here or if you just need a refresher, I'm Ollie and I'm the one-woman show behind the Walleeze channel, and I'm back. I took a week off from posting anything, recording, filming, anything of the like, because my boyfriend was here and I just really wanted to focus on being present and spending time with him. We don't see each other very often, so when we do, I like to give my all to it. And so yeah, I managed to get a vlog out in the first couple days of his visit, and then I just kind of shut myself off from it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the vlog. I did not expect it to be that long. So thank you if you watched it. If you even got part of the way through it, thank you still. So I am going to do a December one, but hopefully it is not that long. Hopefully I'm able to keep it under an hour. Also had some issues with YouTube, thinking that the music that I have always used in my videos was somebody else's, an entirely different song. So I'm pretty sure pushing my video down into the dumps because of that, but alas, we keep on moving, we keep on schmoving. But I'm here, back with another podcast. I've got 2 weeks worth of stuff to catch you guys up on. My notes are very long for today's episode, so we'll see how quickly I can get through all this. But yeah, big life updates. Obviously, my boyfriend came to visit. We celebrated Thanksgiving by going to the Remy Wolf concert, which was amazing. We watched a bunch of movies, and we watched all the Charlie Brown specials, except for the Christmas one. We haven't gotten to that one yet because we're waiting until it's a little bit more time appropriate, but we did catch up on the Great Pumpkin and Thanksgiving one, obviously. And yeah, I also celebrated my birthday, so I am officially 20 now, so that's cool, not frightening at all, and I'm actually super excited but super scared at the same time because I'm officially in my 20s, and that is nerve-wracking but exhilarating at the same time. So let's just get right into the podcast, which is exactly what you're here for, the knitting talk, not the life talk. The life talk stays to the vlog, but also creeps in here just a little bit. So jumping into the podcast, first up is finished objects. And I have 2 finished objects this week, these past 2 weeks, but unfortunately I do not have them with me because they were my boyfriend's gift knits. If you've been here for a while, you know that I've been knitting my boyfriend a Salty Day sweater and Home for Christmas socks for his for Christmas, not for, why did I say for his birthday, for Christmas. And I managed to get them done, but he has departed from England. He's back home in the States and he took them with him. So I have a clip. I'll roll it at some point in the span of me talking about these 2 projects, but I did get a clip of him wearing them and showing off his socks and everything. So let's just get right into the first one, which is the Salty Day sweater, which is a pattern by Kudovakika or Veronica Lindberg. I knit the size small and I used 5.5mm needles in order to meet gauge, and I used Malabrigo Rios in the colorway Wales Road, which is 100% superwash merino. I bought originally 6 hanks of yarn to use for this project. I knew that was going to be a little bit extra, but at the time of buying the yarn, I did not know what size he wanted exactly. I didn't know if he wanted the small or if he wanted the medium. So I went ahead and I bought the yarn for enough yarn to knit the medium, and then he ended up wanting the size small, and I knew I was going to end up with almost an entirely untouched 6th ball, and I just barely had to crack into it, just barely, and I think it was quite literally just for like the last little bit of the sleeve. So I barely touched it at all. It's right here. You can see it's pretty much a full ball of yarn. So that will get used later. I'll touch back on that, but I definitely had my ups and downs of this project. There were parts that were very easy for me, parts that were a bit of a slog, parts that confused and confounded me. The body cable section was terrible for me. I did not enjoy doing cables that long and just that monotonously. It just wasn't very fun for me, and I thought, oh no, am I a hater of cables? But then I got to the cables on the sleeve because I did a sleeve modification where I did lace and cables on the sleeves instead of just mostly ribbing. When I got to the cables on the sleeve, I actually really enjoyed it, and I breezed through those cables. So maybe I'm not a full cable sweater girly. Maybe this is crushing my Moby sweater dreams. But, right, the Moby sweater? I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, but maybe I'm much more of like a down the sleeve cable detail kind of girl, you know? Something where I get a little bit of the cabling taste, but I'm not drowning in cables and having to pay attention to all these charts and such. So, I also had my ups and downs with blocking. If you watched the vlog, you definitely got to see that up close. When I finished the second sleeve, my plan originally was to just block that sleeve because I was so scared of blocking it because of what happened last time. But I decided, no, I'm just gonna dunk it all, give it a nice even block so I don't leave anything or overstretch something more than I did the last time. So I went ahead and did that, and I did tell my boyfriend, if you're gonna block this at home, please use a steamer and wait for me to be there, and then I will very carefully and I will take on the fear and anxiety of wet blocking it. So when you're alone, please just steam block it. But I did manage to get it done in time. I had about 2.5 days to dry, and it did get dry in time. I was so pleased. I even had time to sew in elastic on the collar, so that way, because I bound off with a stretchy bind off, and I was really afraid that it was gonna like have it flare, and so I put the elastic in and it really helped. But my boyfriend loved it. He only had one tiny complaint, and it wasn't really a complaint, it was more like a note, and he was like, if you can fix this, could you fix this? He just says that because of the weight of the wool, the collar kind of droops a little. So it's a little bit lower than he would like. He likes it to sit a little bit closer, kind of like how this is here, but it droops. And so initially he didn't want a folded collar like it's written in the pattern because he didn't want that bulk right up against his neck. But because of the way it's drooping, I think I may need to do a folded collar. And if you know how to fix this, please tell me. I just knit for 2.5 inches, I think it was. And I didn't fold it over, I didn't knit longer, it's just a regular collar. But if you have any tips on how to keep it from drooping like that, if the folded collar is the answer, then he's gonna have to put up with a folded collar, or do I just pick up less stitches, or I don't really know. So if you know, tips are appreciated. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go through trial and error and try them with his sweater, but I don't have it here, so it's going to have to wait till next time I have it. Eventually I will have it back and I'll fix that. That's exactly what that leftover yarn is going to be used for. One thing that I will note is that according to my boyfriend, he wore it a couple times when he was here, and he's already been wearing it a bunch back home. One thing to note is that he says that it is already pilling. It's not pilling a ton, he says, just note it just a little. It doesn't mess with it too visually, I don't think. It's just more like he can see it when he's wearing it and such. So that's something to note with the Malabrigo Rios. Also, if you've never worked with Malabrigo Rios, it grows a ton when you block it. My sleeves were measuring around 17, 18 inches when I finished knitting them, and then whenever I blocked them, this is also, take this with a grain of salt because this is also in part of the lace and cables, but whenever I blocked them, they stretched out all the way to 23 inches. So quite the jump, almost 5-6 inches of growth, which is crazy, absolutely insanity. I'm so happy with the way that it turned out. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. I think it is probably one of the most stunning things I've made to date, and it probably will continue to be one of the most stunning things I make for a while. The yarn is beautiful. The yarn is a dream to work with. It's so soft, it's so squishy, it's so plush. And I just really enjoyed the whole process of knitting it. I definitely had my downs and I had my struggles, but overall, can't complain too much. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and I will take a lot from this. So yeah, the only thing left to be said is that it was on the needles for 75 days. I count things as completely done once they are off the blocking mats, or the floor in my case, and they were done and dry and ready to wear. So by the time it was done, dry, and ready to wear, it was 75 days. A lot longer than I initially thought it was going to take, but alas. Okay. Moving on to my next finished object, and the second of my boyfriend's gifts were the Home for Christmas socks by Bernard and Dormy. I knit them in the size large, and I knit them on 2.25 millimeter needles, and whoa, my brain just stopped working for a second there. The yarn that I used was Cascade Heritage in the colorway Pine, which is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon, as well as Drops Nord in the colorways red and off-white. And Drops Nord is a 45% alpaca, 30% polyamide, and 25% wool. In the pattern, it calls for you increase right before your color work and you decrease after your color work. The increase that it calls for was just too much, in my opinion. So instead, I did a custom increase row to cut that number down into one that would still work for the color work repeat, but not quite as drastic as the one called for in the pattern. So the increase row that I did jumped the stitch count up from 72 to 80. So 8 stitches instead of the 24 stitches that were called for in the pattern. The pattern tells you to increase from 72 stitches to 96, and I think that is just a bit too much, personally. I knit the jack-o'-lantern socks by Bernard and Dormy, and I just completely blindly followed her increase row, and those socks, I have to face it, they're too big for me. I actually gave them to my boyfriend while he was here, because the only thing that was wrong with them for him was that we have different foot lengths. So I knit them to fit my foot length and not his, so the heel did not fit properly on him, but he said he's perfectly fine wearing them around the house, so they went to him now. So this was my first time knitting 3-stranded color work, and I was struggling a bit in the beginning. Then I got the hang of it, and by the time I got to the second sock, I had a pretty good feel of what I was doing, and I was starting to get the hang of managing my tension in 3-stranded color work as well. So because of that, the second sock went much faster than the first one. I got it done. I don't know why I'm saying this like I kept track of how long the second sock took me, but it took me a considerable less amount of time than the first one. I was a little down to the wire with these. My boyfriend got here on the 27th, so everything needed to be pretty much dry and packed away in the gift box by the 26th. The evening of the 26th, I finished these on the evening of the 25th. So they had just a little bit under 24 hours to dry. They did not, in fact. That colorwork section, because of how thick it is, took forever to dry. Truly forever to dry. It got to the point where I was hitting them with a hairdryer. I was sitting here like holding the hairdryer afar, trying to dry them, turning them inside out, everything, just trying to get them dry as fast as I possibly could. So regardless of that, they got done and they got dry in time. And they did get packed away, and they fit my boyfriend pretty much perfectly. I think I need to change the length that I knit his foot length, because of the way that I saw them visually fit on his foot with the German short row heel. Those are the second socks I've ever given him that have a German short row heel, but both of the socks that I've knit that have German short row heels, I had not seen him wear until he got here, and they were both done. The film socks that I showed in my very first podcast, those were the first ones that I knit him with a German short row heel. So obviously he had not been gifted those yet. So now that they were all gifted and I was able to see how a German short row heel fits on him, I think I need to knit his foot length an extra, what did I say it was? An extra quarter of an inch, just to sit properly on his foot, and that if he were to wear them in shoes, the heel it would hit the heel of the shoe would actually hit the heel of the sock. It wouldn't hit like the edge of the heel and the leg, if that makes any sense. But notes for next time, going in the old noggin will be remedied from further socks. All of this is in an effort to find the perfect sock formula for my boyfriend of looks, feel, fit, and just most importantly, how he enjoys them. But he really enjoys everything I knit for him, so there's not much danger in that happening. I was really worried about the color work being too tight because especially in the first sock, I was not super conscious about monitoring my tension, especially in a 3-stranded color work, because I was mainly just worried about, you know, wrangling 3 different strands of yarn. But they got over his heel. A little bit tight, but nothing crazier than what you would get from like socks that you buy in the store. And he said he loved them. He said they fit perfect. So it does take a little bit more caution to get on and off of his heel, but they fit. They fit perfectly on his leg. They look good. He says they feel good, and really that's all you can ask for. So one thing that I did notice is that he wore them one day that we were walking around here in the city, and it was just one day that he wore them in his shoes, and the heels, which I swapped out the heel flap and gusset in the pattern for a German short row heel, and I knit it in a contrast color, which in this case was the red drop snord. It felted. It's that kind of like mix that happens on like the heels of socks where it's almost felting, it's almost pilling. So it was kind of like that combo right there on the heel, and it was bad. It was seriously bad. And I wonder if that's because of the alpaca content, how drop snort is majority alpaca, but not majority, it's 45% alpaca. That's still a decent chunk of alpaca. So I wonder if that's because of that. But pretty much every socks that he wears that I give him, the heels pill terribly, because a lot of people wear their socks around the house, but my sweet Jordan loves to wear them out and about in his shoes, and he loves to show them off to people. So he does wear them around the house a ton, but if he can wear them out, he will. And I'm trying to find the perfect yarn, and I fear it just may be acrylic yarn. Which, I mean, I've crocheted for 4 years. I've spent 4 years not knitting, crocheting in acrylic yarn. I'm not ashamed to go back to acrylic yarn. I'm not a snob to acrylic yarn, but I've just sort of migrated towards a natural fiber kind of route, and I kind of want to stay there. So, but if I have to go back to acrylic because those socks are going to work best for him and how he wears his socks, or now that I'm speaking this out loud, maybe I can just knit him like a kind of like line of socks that are just in acrylic that are meant for him to wear them out of the house, and then he has like his fancy ones that are made out of wool and they're so warm and cozy and they're meant for inside the house. But he loves wearing them out. He says, jump scared, my boyfriend just texted me, but he loves wearing them out, and unfortunately they did felt like that. They are not ruined, it's just very noticeable. I don't think I really have much else to say about them, but they are visually stunning. I don't know if I will have already played the clip of Jordan showing off his sweater and socks, or if I'm going to play it.
It's a picture or video?
It's a video. It's recording. Hi, Mr. Walleeze.
Hello.
What do you think of your sweater?
I love it. I love it.
Give us a
Color's
spin.
so pretty.
Give us a twirl. Very nice. Very nice. And your socks?
Which ones? 4 of them.
The Home for Christmas socks.
Oh, lovely. I love the color. The color is so pretty. Here, from.
Okay.
I'm wearing a different pair that she knit for me right now.
I'm not gonna show your feet. Put them like up to the camera, like influencer style. Okay.
We gotta go to class, love.
Okay. But they are stunning. I love them. I think they turned out so well. And when all was said and done, and they were done and dry, they were on the needles for 23 days. Okay, moving on to my whips now. I have quite a few whips. I have 3 new cast-ons. The first cast-on that I have is one that you're going to see now, and then you probably won't see very much of for the next coming weeks. They are the Celestial Mitts by Pearl Soho. It's a free pattern on Pearl Soho's website. I'm knitting this up in some leftover Neighborhood Fiber Co. yarn that I have. It's their rustic fingering, and it's 100% organic merino in the colorway Waverly, as well as some leftover Earth Harvest yarn in the colorway Oleaster. It is 100% superwash extra fine merino. So these are the 2 colors. Show them up here. When I woke up this morning, and it was so sunny, and I was like, ooh, let me get ready. So I got ready. I got my notes all ready to film, and I sat down and I opened up my window, and gray, dark, and it's the clouds are so thick you cannot even see a remnant of the sky above, which means that instead of the sun setting at 3:30 p.m. it's going to set at like 2:30, which is almost now. So, but there's the colors up here up front with their blue tint, and then here they are back here, a little bit truer to form. So I cast them on right before we went to the Remy Wolf concert, actually, on 2.5 millimeter needles, which is what the pattern calls for the ribbing, and then it uses 2.75 millimeter needles for the color work. I forgot that word for a second. This is honestly going to be a back burner project because as soon as I cast them on, it was super, super cold the night of the Remy Wolf concert, and so I was like, perfect. It reminded me, and I was like, perfect, I need to get working on those mitts anyway. And every day since then, it has been warm. It has barely been cold enough for a coat. I say warm, take that lightly. It has just been kind of mid-temperatures, but it's just going to be a back burner project because of the warmth. And also I'm going back home. By the time you guys see this video, I will likely be on a plane back home to the States. So it's warmer back home, so I don't need mitts there, and it's warmer here, so it's kind of not going to be given the priority that it was going to when I cast them on. Cast them on is a loose term. Let me show you what I've got. Yeah, that's right. You're seeing it correctly. I cast on 1 single row. I did the cast on row, and then I knit 1 single row because those are my 2 least favorite things. They stop me most often from knitting new projects because they are not fun for me at all. They make my hands cramp. They are fiddly. They're tough. It's so difficult, but I did it. And that's all that's going to be done for a while. I have other gift knits that are taking priority, as well as other projects that I will talk about in just a minute. Another reason that these are going to be staying on the back burner is that since the colorwork calls for 2.75 millimeter needles, I actually can't use those because they are being used on another project, which I will get to in just a moment. As you saw, I only did 1 row, so there's not much work done, like at all, and there probably will not be much more work done until after Christmas. After Christmas, I'll be able to give them the time and attention that they need, as long as they are done before I get back to England, because when I come back, it'll be end of January, early February, and it'll really be cold here. So, as of now, I know they don't show it, but they have been on the needles for 10 days. The time that they are going to be on the needles by the time they are done is not going to be a true reflection of how much time was actually spent working on them, but I'm not diligent enough to log that properly, so we're just gonna have to take the number that the count up timer that I have gives me. So we'll see that again maybe in a couple of weeks. Anyways, the reason that I cannot really continue on these is because the 2.75 millimeter needles that will be used for the color work, I only have 1 set of needles, like the pear or whatever, and they are being used on my stockings. So I mentioned before in another podcast that I have a tradition, this is the 2nd year that I'll be doing it, of knitting Jordan and I stockings for Christmas. So that way by the time we live together, we have a ton of stockings to choose from, all handmade by me, either crocheted or knit, and we can take our pick and put whatever ones we want up, or maybe swap them out day by day. Who really knows? That's for us to decide once we get there, and that's for me to just knit every Christmas stockings. So this year's stockings are the Fresh Pine stockings by Ursula Almeida. That's the pronunciation I'm going with. I'm knitting them up with 2.75 millimeter needles, the ones that are for those, in Drops Flora yarn in the colorways red, sand, and dark green. And Drops Flora is 65% wool and 35% alpaca. Something that I did last year with our stockings, and I'm going to be doing again this year, is one of the colorwork charts on the stocking I'm going to be subbing out for our names. So that way the stockings can have our names nice and pretty like most stockings are supposed to. I actually did those yesterday, so let me go grab them. Okay, so I did the charts yesterday, and I know that there's websites like Stitch Fiddle and such, and I have used Stitch Fiddle before, and I like using Stitch Fiddle, but something that I really like to do and I find a lot of joy in is I like to hand draw my charts. So I have Procreate on my iPad and I have an Apple Pencil. I use the drawing guide. It creates like a grid across your canvas, and I use that to kind of fill in. So I took one of the sections of the stocking in the charts and I kind of laid it out over how it would look split up on the two sides of Magic Loop, and I put our names in. So here's Jordan's. Oh, focus on that. There we go. Oh, wrong way. So there's Jordan's. And then I went ahead and I did mine as well. We both have 6-letter names. So that worked out really well and made it really easy for me. So there's mine. Yep. So I love doing my charts like this. It makes me feel like I'm doing digital art again. I had a really big digital art phase when I was in early high school, and I kind of fell out of it. I just realized that I wasn't really progressing in art, nor did I really have the urge to progress any further. But I did invest a lot of time and learning into it before I kind of reached a plateau and I didn't want to go any further. So those are the charts that I'm going to be using to sub in our names instead of one of the snowflake color work charts. So far, this is all that I have done. Let's not get more tangled than we already are. This is all I have done currently, just the ribbing. There we go. So very nice. I'll show you back here. Okay, so ignore the obvious camera change. My camera is being really, really annoying. I film on my phone and I like to use the back camera because the back camera is better than the front camera. Then I mirror that to my laptop so I can see what I'm recording, because obviously when you're recording with the back camera, you can't see what you're recording. But I need to see what I'm recording because I'm showing you guys stuff. And so it's just really not working with me today. There's like a huge, I kid you not, like a 5 to 7 second delay between the phone and the laptop, and it makes it really disorienting to film, and it was just frustrating me. So I finally just gave in and flipped to the front camera, which is still decent but could be better. So ignore the really obvious camera change, and we're just going to move on. Anyways, so those are the charts that I will be using to sub in on one of the snowflake sections on the stocking. I think it's going to be the first snowflake section. It's not where I'm going to put the names, but this is all I have done right now. It's just the ribbing. It's just a normal cast on, and then it does corrugated ribbing and a little garter section right after. So this is my first time ever doing corrugated ribbing. I thought it looked so cool and chic in the pattern, and I was a little bit confused about how that was going to happen. And then I read the pattern and I was like, oh, so it's just color work but with ribbing. So yeah, one thing I will say about this color work not color work, corrugated ribbing, is that I do a Norwegian purl because as a continental knitter, I find the putting the yarn in front and using my finger to like pull like that, it's really confusing and really difficult, and it makes my hands cramp and it's not fun at all. And so when I discovered the Norwegian purl, I was like, problems solved. It does make my pearls a lot looser though, which makes a lot of sense because of the way you're tugging on the loop and everything. But it's normally not too bad or not too noticeable. But with this, because there are floats in between every single pearl, that float gives it a lot of looseness and a lot of leeway. And so none of the pearls were quite being tugged tight the way they needed to be. So I did notice that. It wasn't a big enough issue for me to try and struggle doing normal purling. So I just went with it. This one's mine, so if there's any mistakes or anything, I'm learning on mine, so that way Jordan's can be nice and clean and perfect. But yeah, that was something that I did notice. So if you also Norwegian purl and you've never done corrugated ribbing, then take that note. But other than that, it's still ribbing. It still was not a ton of fun for me, but back and forth color work is my favorite. Really, my issue with ribbing is that I can speed through some knitting, and honestly, if I go into a row of pearls, I'm not that fussed about it because I know that I'm going into a row of pearls, you know what I mean? I know that this row is going to be a bit of a slog because a Norwegian purl does take a good bit longer than a knit stitch, so I know that it's going to be a little bit of a slog. I know it's going to take me almost double the amount of time that it takes to do a knit row. But when I go into a ribbing, I don't know why it never clicks in my brain that it's going to do that because there are an enormous amount of pearls in that row. And instead, I just expect to like speed through, and I never do. So I'm always like, oh wow, I must be almost done with the ribbing. You've done 2 rows, babes. You've done 2 rows. So let's take a deep breath and let's just chill and try to find some peace in this. So ribbing always makes me feel personally like, do I hate this hobby that I've dedicated so much time and money into? And then I get to the rest of the piece, usually a sock, in this case a stocking, and I'm like, oh no, it was just ribbing. It was just ribbing that was making me feel like that. So I did do something with this though, and I changed my personal deadline. In my head, I had these that I wanted them to be done by Christmas. The next whip that I'm going to talk about is the reason that I'm changing this deadline, but I changed it from Christmas to just kind of general holiday season, to give myself more of a firmer date, because I'm a person that needs like firm dates before I come back to England after Christmas break. I do not know what day exactly that is off the top of my head. I think it's like January 26th or something. I don't know, but I want it done before then, so that way these can stay at home and don't have to come here and take up space in my tiny little dorm room. Yeah, so I'm just changing that deadline to kind of give myself more breathing room. I just got done with a lot of stress with Jordan's knits, and so I just wanted to give myself a little bit more breathing room. Gift knit season is crazy, and I do want to take time to knit myself some stuff, just to remember that I am beautiful, I am important, I am worthy of these gifts. It's kind of not going to be top priority, it's kind of like second priority. So it's kind of just going to be like what I'm working on when I'm not working on the next whip that I'm about to talk to. And this stocking, before I get into talking about this one, the next project, this stocking has been on the needles for 2 days. So, back in the corner. Okay, moving on to my next whip. That's technically, the stockings are technically a gift knit, but they're not really like going to be given to anyone. They're just kind of given to future versions of Jordan and I. Jordan's my boyfriend, by the way. I think I've said that before. I'm pretty sure I've said that before. I know I referred to him as just my boyfriend a lot, but his name is Jordan, and I'm pretty sure I've connected the two. Or, you guys are smart. You guys use context clues. But in case you were confused, there's that. Jordan is my boyfriend. So if I say Jordan, it's interchangeable with my boyfriend. So it's kind of a gift knit to future Jordan and I, but not really a gift knit. Next one definitely is a gift knit. It is going to be given to my mother on Christmas. My mother does not watch this YouTube channel. She knows that I do YouTube, but she does not watch this. So for Christmas, I am going to be knitting my mom the double knit scarf by Hello, I don't know how to pronounce that, Life. It'll be on the screen.
Huga.
I think it's a super classy looking scarf, and I think my mom will love it. My mom really, really hates when her neck gets cold, which is so ironic because she has a pixie cut. She has like one of those pixie cut that doesn't like slant. It's just like super short. Not to be like she has a classic middle-aged girl boss woman haircut, but she does. And she rocks it. I love my mother. I love my mama. She's great. She rocks that haircut, but she does not like when her neck gets cold. So she's pretty often wearing like jackets or stuff that covers her neck, or she'll wear a scarf or like something around her neck just to kind of keep it from being cold. So I want to knit her a scarf so she can have something that I made that she can protect her neck with. And I thought this was just a super classy looking scarf, and I thought she'd really enjoy it. So I bought, this is one of my acquisitions, but I'm telling you now because it's, you know, pertaining this project, but I bought 4 balls of Drops Lima in the colorway red, which is 65% wool and 35% alpaca, and I'm knitting it on 4mm needles, which is what the pattern calls for. So, a little tiny bit of like personal childhood backstory. I first learned how to knit when I was 8 years old because when I was a kid, my mom worked all through the week and my dad worked on the weekends. Because he's a photographer, so a lot of times he'd work from home, like editing photos and stuff throughout the week, but on weekends he'd actually like be out shooting weddings and things of the sort. So on the weekends it was often just my mom and I. We'd go out and we'd hang out, do fun things, go to the park, and she'd always have some sort of activity lined up for us. And so one of the things that she lined up for us one week was a knitting class, because I had expressed interest in like more fiber arts. I had done cross stitch at that point, and I was 7 or 8 years old. I was in 2nd grade. And so she took me, and obviously it was a bunch of these like older ladies in the class, and they loved me. They're like, oh, she's so dear, she's so darling, she's 8 years old and she wants to learn how to knit. And so they taught me how to knit. I learned how to cast on, how to knit, and how to purl. After that class, the only thing that I retained was how to cast on and how to knit. When we were at the store, we had to pick out a yarn to, you know, learn with and work with, and my mom let me pick out this beautiful cherry red actual wool yarn to use, and it was in a like one of those like those cakes that you get from like Michael's and stuff, but they sell them in like actual wool too, just a little bit harder to find. But she bought me one of those in cherry red. I did knit pretty heavily for a couple of months, but considering I only knew how to knit and cast on, all I was doing was making a bunch of rectangles, a bunch of squares, and garter stitch back and forth, and I was seeing these pictures of knitting, and I did not understand why my garter stitch did not look like stockinette. Now I know the terms for all this stuff, but I was very frustrated. I didn't know about going on YouTube. I wasn't super like into the internet. My mom was very worried about internet safety, so I really only went on the computer for school stuff. So going on YouTube and just searching for knitting videos was kind of unheard of for me. And so I just kind of gave it up. I got frustrated. I tossed it to the back of the closet, forgot all about it. Knitting just seemed something so far away, so confusing, so non-surmountable. You know what I mean? Insurmountable? Non-surmountable? I think it's insurmountable. But 11 years passed. I'm 19 years old. It was February of this year, and I decided, you know what? I am going to learn how to knit. So I hunkered down and I really forced myself to learn how to knit. It was a little confusing, but the fact that I already knew how to cast on and knit when I was younger kind of gave me like a muscle memory. And I kind of the video that I was learning from was English. She was throwing English, and so I was trying to throw English style, and I was like, I'm gonna put this down again. I'm gonna give up again. And then I remembered that I crocheted continental, like with my yarn in my left hand and my hook in my right hand. And so I decided to try doing that with my knitting, and something clicked. It made sense because I think I learned continental when I first learned how to knit when I was 8 years old. So having that back, I was like, oh, suddenly I can do it again. And so now that I was able to do the knit stitch that I was able to do so well when I was 8, now I'm finally came back with the determination and the cognizance to like really tackle more difficult knitting things. And obviously you see I just made the salty days, I've done colorwork socks, I've knit socks in general. A sock was the first thing that I ever knit. That was the first thing I picked up. So I learned a lot of valuable skills with knitting a sock. I've knit my own scarves for my own, like, I've adapted crochet patterns into knitting. I haven't done like a ton of crazy stuff, but I've done a few crazy things. So and that's something I'm really proud of. I'm trying to be better about being proud of myself, but I'm proud. I've done a lot of work. I've done a lot of hard work for this. And so for this scarf, I want it to be like, here's a really classy thing that I've done, and I've done it well, to give back to my mom. And I really wanted it to be in this kind of red yarn that reminded me of the original red yarn that she bought me when I was a kid to learn how to knit with. So I bought this yarn. It's not quite as cherry red as the yarn that I used when I was a kid was, but I think that this red is a lot more wearable. It's a lot more classy looking. It's a little bit darker. So here's the ball of yarn up close, and here it is back here. It's not super cherry red, but it is still bright red. And yeah, I haven't done a ton of progress on this just because it got started not too long ago, but here's what I have so far. There's one side, focus on that, and then the other side, because as the name suggests, this scarf is double knit. I've never done double knitting before, so this is my first time doing double knitting. It also called for an Italian tubular cast on, right? An Italian tubular cast on, which I learned for the first time. It took me a couple of tries. I had to rip it out and try again once or twice, but I finally got the hang of it. I will definitely have to watch a tutorial next time I go to do the Italian tubular cast on again. But I did learn that first time. I've heard a lot of things about double knitting. I've heard people say it's a slog. I've heard people say it's boring, it's difficult, and from my first impressions, I've only done, I think, about 12 rows on this scarf. It's not difficult, I wouldn't say. I can see why people think it is a slog, just because it kind of does work up at like half speed almost. Because I have like 12 rows, but if you count the knit stitches that are visible and not the slips in between, it does show 6. So I can see why people think it's a slog. And I imagine it's like way worse when you get down to like the fingering weight double knitting. But so far, I'm enjoying it. I think it's fun. I think it looks very classy. I think it looks very clean. I think it's kind of landing in a really perfect spot for me where it's mindful enough that I have to pay attention to like, oh, this is a slip, this is a knit, this is a slip, this is a knit. But it's also kind of mindless that I can get into like a rhythm with it and just kind of zone out. Like I have to look at it, but I can zone out while I'm looking at it, and I can pay attention to like a podcast or an audiobook or something of the sort. The way that the pattern is worked out is that it is obviously a scarf, so a rectangle, and somewhere near the bottom there are 2 little slits, because if you see the picture, let me bring back the picture. So if you see the picture, there's a part where it kind of loops through itself, so it needs that slit so that way the fabric can go through itself. That is honestly the most mindful part of this pattern, I think. That takes a lot of, concentration, pay attention to what you're actually doing and things like that. So I want to finish that part before I leave for home. So that way I can take this on the train, on the plane, everywhere, and I can just do my double knitting in peace. And I won't have to worry about it. You know what I mean? Worry about like, oh, let me measure, and then I'll have to stop and do these slits. So that is my goal over the next week, is to get to that point. There's not so much to report now. just because this is how big it is. But it is my top priority over the next coming weeks, so we will see a lot more of it. So far, it has been on the needles for 2 days, so not bad for 2 days, but not great for 2 days, considering it needs to be done by Christmas. So, also, you may have heard me mention my father's gift knit a couple weeks back and have not seen anything about it since. So I still am knitting him those socks. I'm subbing this scarf for the socks that I was originally intending for my mom. I think this is a much more intentional gift, and I think that I really enjoy giving intentional gifts, so I think that this is a much better gift. So I'm subbing out those socks. But as far as the Shrimply the Best socks, I think they're called by Stone Knits, they are still going to get done, but I realized that I do not have any of my parents' foot measurements. So I'm going to tell my father on Christmas, you are getting a pair of knit socks. Now hand over your foot because I need to measure everything. So that way the sock can be made perfectly to his foot. Okay, before we get into my acquisitions, I want to do a teeny tiny little section that I will be temporarily calling, like, they're not works in progress, but they're not in hibernation, they're just napping. So these are my napping projects. My napping projects, I'm not even going to show them because it's not worth getting them out of their bags, making the noise, making the mess, everything. But I will show the pictures, obviously. My napping projects are my Clematis sweater by Emma Mayer and the Afton's Christmas bow by Afton Strick. The Christmas bow is still desk knitting. It'll get a row or two here or there, maybe, if I'm doing stuff. Probably not, because it's going to be a very busy week this week as I prep to leave back home for 6 weeks. And as far as the Clematis, it will go home with me for Christmas because I still want it. Maybe by Christmas, probably not by Christmas, probably by New Year's. I think that'd be really cool to wear that sweater into the new year. But we shall see. So they are not in hibernation, but they are not in progress. They are just taking a nap. So now we're going to move on to the second to last section, acquisitions. So the first acquisition that I had was the Drops Lima that I showed you earlier. Just a reminder, colorway red, 65% wool and 35% alpaca. And then since it was my birthday this past week, my boyfriend and I went to a local yarn shop nearby to me, and we took a little day trip. We enjoyed the scenery. We enjoyed the sunset at 3:30. But he bought me 2 balls of yarn for some like kind of smaller accessory projects that I would like to do. I think I'm coming to terms with the fact that I am an accessory knitter. I do like a sweater, I do like a garment, but I think I like the kind of more instant gratification of a accessory knit. But he did buy me yarn for 2 accessory knits that I have planned. The first one that he bought me was the Queensland Collection Perth. And it is in the color Wine Glass Bay, and it is 80% superwash wool and 20% nylon. And I gotta say, guys, this yarn is stunning. This is the yarn. Let me go ahead and show it to you. This is the yarn. This is the other side. I just think it looks kind of like a portal. Does it not? Here it is back here. I just think it looks so beautiful. And if you look at the single strand too, it kind of is, it's like two-toned, and it kind of reminds me of, what is it called? Spin cycle yarns. Kind of reminds me of that. But he got me this yarn specifically for the, I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, Ribka pouch by Rat and Sea Witch. It's like this adorable little fish pouch. And we agreed, and the lady at the yarn shop, we agreed that this kind of was giving Rainbow Fish, if anyone remembers that book. I wasn't a big Rainbow Fish kid. I was a big Chicka Chicka Boom Boom kid. But it reminded me of Rainbow Fish, and fish vibes, I don't know. It worked in my head, it worked at the moment, and the lady at the store understood my vision. So that will be used for Ribka pouch. It is a sock yarn, so maybe it will get used for sock. I'll have to see how much I have. Maybe it'll be like an accent color for something else. Maybe I'll get rid of some other sock yarn that I have in sock yarn scraps that I have. I don't know, we'll see. But it's definitely going to be used for the Ribka pouch. The next yarn that he bought me is Knit Pro Symphony Viva, and it's 100% superwash merino, and it's in the color Valentine. Very cutely named. But here's the yarn up close. Oh, it looks so dark and mysterious up there, but here it is back here. It's a lot more reddish pinky back here. It's got some purples in it. You can kind of see right there. But I bought this specifically for the Wiggly scarf by Helena Weiser? I think it's Weiser. But I think that scarf is so cute, and I kind of want it for spring, and I understand that this is not a spring color at all, but I think it'd be so cute to have like a darker, colder season version, and then a brighter colored for like the perkier seasons like spring and summer. So for the perkier version, I think I want to use Cascade 220 Blueberry Heather. I'll put a picture, but I have not bought that yet. But I think this will be for a really cute like accent wiggly scarf for the darker, colder months. So I gotta make that quicker, sooner rather than later, because we're about to leave the darker, colder months, but we'll see. The next two acquisitions that I have are not yarn or knitting related, but they are important to me and my crafty and hobbies. To my crafty hobbies and my just general hobbies. So the first thing was another gift from my boyfriend. We saw it at a store and we thought it was too cute to pass up, but it is this adorable little hole punch. So basically, do I have a piece of paper here I can use? Yeah, I'll just use my notebook. So basically you take it and you just stick the paper in, you punch down, it punches out a perfect little star. Oh, isn't that adorable? And it comes on a keychain, and it's so small and dainty, and I think it's so freaking cute, and I just think it's so small, which is great for the fact that my stationery and journaling supplies travels with me. So I think this is really helpful, and I think it's really nice to add cute little touches to my journaling, to anything I do really. Plus, I'm just a star girl. Some girls are big on hearts, some girls are big on bows. I'm big on stars. I'm a star girl if there ever was one, and that's the end of the story. I have stars pretty much everywhere throughout my life. There's little stars and sparkles all over my journal. There's stars all over my laptop cover. There's stars everywhere in my life. So. And then the last acquisition that I have this week is a bit more of a jokey one, but still one that I find quite amusing. My boyfriend has a Nintendo Switch. I do not. Jordan, if you're watching this, you're probably giggling to yourself, but I have always wanted to play Animal Crossing because I really love Stardew Valley, that kind of cozy game vibe. So Animal Crossing seemed right up my alley, and so I didn't have a Switch, so he brought me his Switch, and he's like, I don't use my Switch, you can have it. So I have his Switch for the time being. I did buy Animal Crossing for it. I did also buy this game that I saw a YouTuber play called Moonstone Island, and it seems like a combination of Pokemon, Stardew Valley, and Slay the Spire. So if you know any of those games or you like those games, I would recommend trying out Moonstone Island, because yeah, so this is my last acquisition. It is my boyfriend's Nintendo Switch, and I have been playing Moonstone Island on it pretty much non-stop for like the past 4 or 5 days. This is my little house. This is just the inside of my house. I don't even know if you guys can see, but it's really cute. You go around, you explore, and you collect spirits, which are kind of like Pokemon, and you have a little team, and you use cards to battle other people. So it's just a lot of fun, and I've been playing it nonstop. I will play for like I'll lay down and I'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna play a day or two, be here for like 20-30 minutes. 3 hours will pass and I'm still there playing Moonstone Island, and it's now like 2 a.m. So it's pretty out of hand, but I'm having a ton of fun. So that was a bit of a jokier acquisition, not knitting related, but hobby related. So I'm just going to take that and just move right on into plans. So obviously my plan is to keep working on my mom's scarf, and next time you guys see me, I will be at home. I'll be in my childhood bedroom. I've lived in one house my whole life, so childhood bedroom is my teenage bedroom. So I'll be in my bedroom at home. Like I said, I want to get past the slits. I want to be finished with the slits, have them closed off, and be back and working regular double knitting back and forth. I want to keep working on stockings. I'm not going to set a specific goal. Like I said, I'm just trying to be a little bit more chill and kind to myself about those. So we'll just see what work I can get done. I also, if I can, sneak in work on the other projects. I need to plan out what yarn I'm taking home for Christmas break, because I'm going to be home for 6 weeks. So I need to plan out what projects I'm going to be doing while I'm there, and kind of estimating how much knitting I'm going to get done every day. But yeah, the last thing on my plans list is just play lots of Moonstone Island. I am loving Moonstone Island so much that it was bought as a game, kind of be like, oh, whenever I get bored of Animal Crossing, I'll play Moonstone Island. And I have not even opened Animal Crossing. I've not even downloaded the game onto the. I bought the game, but you know how you have to download it onto the Switch, like all the data and everything. Haven't even done that. Been playing Moonstone Island the entire time. So, going to be playing lots of that. And doing lots of knitting and being very stressed, because traveling is very stressful for me, and I'm traveling back home. So we'll see how much I get done this week. Hopefully I at least reach my goal on my mom's sweater. I mean, not sweater, scarf. But I think that pretty much wraps it up for me. I've had struggles with my camera. My voice is now tired, and I'm losing light, and I still have to do some other stuff. So I will see you guys next time, and you know what time it is. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff down below that you know how to do. I trust you. You know what you're doing. And leave me a comment. I love reading y'all's comments. They make me feel so warm and happy inside. And yeah, just tell me what you're up to, what you're knitting. Do you have any video games that you like to play? Do you like playing cozy video games, more action video games, shooter games? My boyfriend's really heavily playing Marvel Rivals currently, so we have very different video gaming styles, but that's okay, because we exist in the same room and we video game together. Anyways, thank you guys so much for joining me today. It means the world. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, week, month, whatever. And yeah, go out, be kind, seize the day, and savor your happiness. Bye, y'all. Woo!